is Priyanka Goswami, Assistant Professor from Department of Management Studies, GL Bajaj, Institute of Management and Research, Greater Noida. Today I am going to discuss management concepts and organizational behavior. This is the subject from the first unit, and the topic would be fundamentals of management, the definition, features and function of management. Let's start with the concept of management. Management is an important element in every organization. It is the element that coordinates current organizational activity and plans for the future. That means it is very important, because without management we cannot run the organization. We need a management. Why? Because it coordinates the current activity with the future plans. That means where we are and where we want to go, it basically manages those things. That means, and management is something which involves certain functions like planning, organizing, staffing, directing and controlling. So management basically enable us or enable organization to work in a certain way through these functions, that is planning, which starts from planning and which finishes to the controlling. Management is the coordination and administration of tasks to achieve a goal. Such administration activity include setting the organization strategy and coordinate the efforts of staff to accomplish these objectives through the application of available resources. Management is that function which administrate all activities which is performing in the organization, which needs to be performed in the organization, by assembling all the resources, either financial or human or physical resources, in such a manner so that organization can achieve their goal. So management is something which basically helps to do any work in an efficient and effective way. That's why management is very important. It is the process of working with and through other to effectively achieve the goal of the organization by efficiently using limited roles in the changing world. Management is also important because it gets the work done by the people, through the people, and with the limited source. Why we have called that we need, it basically helps to use the resources which is limited in nature. That means organization always work to achieve a goal, and goal would be what? To increase the profit. And if we want to increase the profit, we have to reduce the cost. And to reduce the cost, we can't use resources which is in high amount. We need resources which is limited amount, so that in which we can reduce our cost, and due to which we can increase our profit. So management is that strategy, or it is that element of phenomena which helps the organization to use the resources in such a way so that they can increase their productivity at the same time profit in an efficient and effective way. Let's move on to the next slide, that is definition of management. Management is the art of knowing what you want to do and then seeing that it is done in the best and cheapest way. Management is what? It is that art where we decide that what we want to do in the future. That means first we have to plan, okay, this task we have to do. So first we plan the things. First we think in advance how we can do that. And according to that, we make a strategy in such a way that we can perform that particular task in a best and cheapest way. That means with the limited resources. So management is a kind of strategy, we can say, due to which we can do our task, or we perform a task in a best and cheapest way. Management is a process consisting of planning, organizing, actuating and controlling, performed to determine and accomplish the objective by the use of people and resources. Management is what? It is a process which involves, I've already told you that management involves certain functions like planning, organizing, actuating and controlling. Actuating means actually where we implement the plans, and convert it into the reality. So management is that process where we perform these certain functions in a way so that they can achieve a resources with the achieve the objective with the limited resources. So management consists of these functions which helps you to perform a task with the use of people and resources, because we cannot manage the things, we cannot run the organization without people and without resources. And management is something which helps you to use the things so that they can achieve organizational objectives. Management is an art of getting things done through people. This is a very popular definition of management, which is given by Mary Parker Follett. That means it is an art of getting things done through others, that where management is always done by the manager. See, normally we say that okay, management is something that is a duty of manager, but it is not mandatory. Management is something where we have in the organization at every level management is required. Either it can be a lower level, middle level or top level. So management is what? It is that art. It is done by the manager. See, here manager is not the designation. Here manager means the person who are going to manage the things or who are getting the work done by the people. That is management. So it is an art. We can call it art because we are getting done the work by the people. That's why we call it is an art. Characteristics. Let's move on to the next slide, that is characteristics of management. Number one characteristics is it is goal oriented. Management is goal oriented. That means there would be some purpose to perform a management. That means if in the organization, if we are managing the things, there must be some purpose. So that is goal oriented. It cannot be a goal-less. Management always done to achieve a goal, and organizational goal is to increase the profit and productivity of the workers. So it is goal oriented. Second is management is universal in nature or it is pervasive in nature. That means management is something which can be which is required at every level. It's not like or in every level and at the same time in any kind of organization. It can be a business organization or the non-business organization. Management is useful everywhere. That's why we call it that it is universal in nature. Third one is management is a continuous process. Why it is a continuous process? Because it is a never ending process. We cannot, that means in the management we have to perform certain functions to get the work done, right? Like planning, organizing, staffing, directing and controlling. But after controlling we cannot say that management is over. After that again any other task we have to do, then again we have to follow these functions. So management is something which is endless, which is in a continuous process. Right? Next one is it is a group activity. Management is a group activity because single person cannot manage the things. We need a group of people, we need a group of employees who will get the work done, right, in an efficient and effective way. That's why we call it is a group activity, and it is a integrative process. Integrative means, that means the employees needs to be combined. I mean, they need to be combined in a certain way so that the particular task can be done in an efficient and effective way. And it's not just about the human resource, even it's about the physical resource like raw materials, machines, and at the same time finance. That means management is something where we need all the resources and combinedly we get it done. Right. So all the resources needs to be combined. That's why we call it that management is an integrative process where we have to combine all the resources to get the work done in an efficient and effective way. That's why management is an integrative process. Last one is management is a science as well as an art. Why management is a science? Because it involves certain principles which is given by the different researchers like Henry Fayol, like F.W. Taylor, right? So management is depend on these certain principles. If we talk about division of work, if we talk about authority and responsibilities, these are what? These are the principles which is given by the Henry Fayol. Like in a science, we are again we depend on certain principles which is fixed in nature. In the same way, even in the management, we follow certain principles to run the organization. That's why we call it management is a science. At the same time, why there is another another reason to call it management as a science, that is cause and effect relationship. That means whenever we apply any principle in the organization, we have to see the cause and effect relationship between them. How? Suppose if we take an example of applying authority and responsibility, right? If we are going to delegate, authority and responsibility means where we delegate the work to the people, in which we have to see there should be a balance between authority and responsibility. If there is a lack of parity means when there is a lack of balance between the authority and responsibility, right? So obviously the work would be ineffective. So that means if lack of parity is there, so the result would be inactive. So we have to while applying the authority and responsibility principle in the organization, we have to make a balance. That means according to the responsibility, we have to see the consistency, or we have to see the level of authority which we are going to give to the same person. So that balance is very important to get the good result. If there is a imbalance between the authority and responsibility, surely the result will also be ineffective. For that, that's why we call it that management is a science. At the same time, it is an art. Why it is an art? Because see, if manager knows all the principles, okay, these are the principles which is given by this particular person, so we cannot say that okay, he's a manager, but how he is using it, in which situation he is going to use those principles, that is an art. That is very important, because if he doesn't know that where to apply which kind of principle, so that will not show him that he is a good manager. So obviously to be a good manager, the manager should know that which principle needs to be implemented at which place, at which situation. So that thinking, that thought process is known as an art. So management is not it's not something which can be done by anyone. The person needs to be he needs to be creative in this way. He should see, he should know where to implement which principle, so that they can have a favorable result. Okay, so these are the characteristics of management. Next slide is importance of management. There are certain importance due to where organization feel that where organization feel that yes, management is important. So management is important. It helps in achieving the group goals. Obviously, if we are going to perform certain tasks, and if we are just proceeding without planning, without knowing what we supposed to do, what we have to do in future, so obviously we are not able to perform the task, and in order to achieve the goals. So obviously if the organization wants to achieve a goal, they need management. So that's why management is important in every organization to achieve a group goal. Second is, management basically tells managers and any employee that how to utilize resources optimally. That means how we can utilize the resources in an optimum way without wastage. That always tell by the management. If we are going to manage the things, if we are going in a systematic way through different functions of management, then only we can utilize the resources in a proper way without wastage of the resources. Next is reduces the cost. Management is also important because it reduces the cost. Why? Because if we are going to utilize the resources in an effective and efficient way, automatically it reduces the cost. Next one is establishes sound organization. If the organization is performing well, if it is performing if it is getting good profit, so obviously it will call as a sound organization, because it enables, or it is able to increase the profit with his management skills. So that's why management is important, so that organization can be sound. Sound means that they are earning good profit, at the same time they have a good image in the market. So that's why management is important to become a sound organization. Next is face competition. Management is also required to compete with the competitors. If we don't know how to task perform in a better way, how to get good result from the limited resources, so obviously we are not able to compete with the competitors. So obviously to face competition, management is important. Next, last one is encourages innovation. Obviously, if we are not able to do our current task properly in an efficient and effective way, then there would not be any kind of space for the innovation and creativity, right? If organization needs to be excel in their task, then only they can think of something good, something extraordinary, and something innovative and creative. So obviously management is also important to encourage innovation, to encourage creativity. So for these things, again, management is very important. Next one is function. Let's move on to the functions of management. I've already told you that management involves certain functions like planning, organizing, staffing, directing, controlling. These are the 5 functions of management. Let's start with the planning. Planning is what? It is a process of deciding the business objectives and charting out the plan method for achieve the same. That means planning is what? It is a process, or we can say here we decide in advance what to do, when to do, where to do, and by whom is to be done. So that means it is something where we chalk out the plan that how we have to move in a certain way. So that's a planning. This includes determination of what is to be done, how, where it is to be done, who will do it, and how results to be evaluated. So plan is something where we decide in advance how we have to proceed in the future. This is done not only for the organization as a whole, but for every division, department, or subunit of the organization. Obviously, planning is something, I've already told you that management is something, it is a universal in nature. That means it does not belong to one particular division, or one particular department, or one particular level, or one particular nature of business. It can be applicable at any kind of activity. We need management. It can be activity can be a smaller in nature or the larger in nature. So we need management. In the same way, planning as planning is a function of management, so obviously planning is also not limited to the certain department or certain division. It is also universal in nature, so that means it is also applicable in any kind of division or department or any subunit. So planning is also universal in nature. Next function is organizing. Organizing means, according to Allen, the organizing refers to the structure which results from identifying and grouping the work, defining and delegating responsibility and authority, and establishing relationship. Organizing means what? Once we plan the things, once we decide the things, okay, in this way we have to do the work. Second, we organize the things. That means we have to bring together all the resources in a certain way so that we can make a relationship amongst them. How? That means that who will be the supervisor, who will be the subordinate, who will do which work. So this kind of thing, this kind of classification we basically do in organizing. So organizing is what? Where we bringing up all the activities, all the resources together, and at the same time we identify, okay, this work we have to do, okay, this work we have to do, then we grouping into the certain way, and then we delegate the work to the employees in a certain way. So what is that? Organizing means where we bringing together all the resources and grouping, even classifying the activities in a certain way, so that there will be a clear picture, okay, this work will be done by this person, and this will be a supervisor, this will be a subordinate, this will be a person who has to report this particular person. So this kind of structure we basically make in organizing. It is the process of bringing together physical, financial, and human resources and developing productive relationship amongst them for achievement of organizational goal. It is a process in which I've already told you that it is what? In which we have to bring together these 3 resources: financial, physical and human resources and develop a productive relationship. Why we call it productive? That means we have to allot, suppose if we are going to give some certain task to the certain person, so that should be that means that particular task to the particular employee. Why we are giving? Because maybe he is eligible to do it, or maybe he has an interest to do that particular task. So by allotting or by delegating that work to that particular person, we are making a productive relationship between the person and the task, right? So that's a productive relationship among this. And why we are doing this organizing? Again, to achieve a organizational objective, that is to build up a good image of the organization in front of the stakeholders, and at the same time to increase the profit. Organizing involves certain steps. Number one is identification of activities. Number second is classification of grouping of activities. Number third, assignment of duties and responsibility along with the authorities. And number fourth is establishment of reporting relationship. It starts, organizing is something which involves again certain steps. Sabse pehle what we have to do? We have to identification of activities. Okay, what are the work we have to do? So that means first we identify, okay, these are the works we have to do. Once we identify, okay, these are the tasks we have to do. Second is classification of grouping of activities. That means once we identify, then we grouping the similar activities together. Second step is what? We are grouping the similar activities together. Third one is assignment. Once we grouping the activities, then we assign the duties to the employees according to their interest, according to their qualification, according to their eligibility. And once we assign the duties, at the same time we have to assign the authorities, because previously I've already told you that there is a principle of authority and responsibility in one example, right? So that authority and responsibility needs to go hand in hand. That means if we are going to assign certain responsibility to the person, you have to give some authority also, so that he can perform his duty in a well manner. So obviously, while after assigning the responsibility, we also provide the authority to that particular employee. And after allotting the authority, we have to establish the reporting relationship. That means you have to even structure the relationship between the people. Okay, which person would be a subordinate, which person would be a supervisor, who will report to which person. So what is that? That's the last step of organizing. So in this way, we organize the thing in the organization in a management. Third one is staffing. Once we organize the thing, once we decide, okay, which person will do which work, right? Delegation of work is already done. All the things, all the activities, identification is already done. Then what we have to do? Then we have to recruit the people. That, okay, this person, that means here what we have to do? We have to hire the people. Things are already decided that what kind of person will do which work, right? So now with which machine, with which resources. So third one is we have to hire people. Actually, we are hiring the people. So staffing is what? Managerial function of staffing involves manning the organization structure through proper and effective selection, appraisal, development of personnel to fill the roles designed in the structure. That means staffing is a function in which manager hires the people according to the requirement. So the main motive is what? Manning the organization structure and keeping it manned. That means here they hire the people, and just hiring is not the only responsibility. We have to keep it manned. That means we have to make them sustain in the organization, so that organization work will not get hampered. Next is, in staffing, the manager attempts to find the right person for each job. So obviously manning is not like just hire the people according to the manager's choice. No, we have to hire it according to the requirement, according to the requirement, that what kind of work he has to do in the future. So on the basis of that, we have to hire the people. So that another motive is to get the right person for the right job. Next function is directing. Once we hire the people, once we get the right person in the job, then what we have to do? We have to direct. Next step is directing. That means we have to supervise. Okay, how they have to do which work, how they have to do their work. That's the directing. That means supervision of work is directing, where manager gives the instruction to the employees. It is that part of managerial function which actuates the organizational method to work efficiently for achievement of organizational purpose. This is the function in which actually work gets implemented. So that means here the work is in reality it gets implemented. That's a directing. Directing involves three elements. There are three elements which is required while supervising to the employees. That is communication, leadership and motivation. Number one is communication. That means there should be a clear communication, there should be a clarity of information which is going to be given by the manager to the employees. Then only the people will know that okay, this work they have to do. Second is leadership. Obviously the influential part is also required by the manager, so that they can influence employees in such a way so they can do the work in a better way. Next one is motivation. Motivation means obviously to keep the work, to get the work done for a longer period, we need a motivation. And obviously motivation is also something which is required by the manager to the employees, so that he can motivate all the time their employees, and employees do their work in a better way. So motivation is to motivate the employees to give their best way, to give their best to the organization. For that, motivation is important. Next one, last one is controlling. It implies measurement of accomplishment against the standard and correction of deviation in any ensure the achievement of organizational goal. That means controlling is the last function of management, in which what we do, we cross check the things, that whatever we have planned in the beginning, is it going in that way or not. So that is what this function basically cross check the things against the standard and if manager finds any kind of deviation, he tries to take corrective action. So controlling is very important to cross check the thing against the standard, so that he can remove the deviation if he finds. It involves certain steps like establishment of standard of performance, measuring current performance and comparing it against the established standard, and taking corrective action that does not meet the standard. That means first he has to establish the standard, that means which is already been established in the beginning during the planning. Second, he has to measure the current performance. Third, he compare it against the established standard. And the fourth one, that means if he finds any kind of deviation, he will take corrective action to remove it. Thank you.